Mel Gibson on his horse riding up and down the lines going,
freedom!
Choreographed every fight on Braveheart. Boom, 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 cut to someone else. Boom, boom. He would learn the fight 5 minutes before we shot it, and it was very difficult. All the guys around him knew everything.
And it was the epic films that really inspired me to do Braveheart.
This is a little piece of cinema history. Rarely do you see this many people in a shot.
The script was given to me on an acting basis, of course, but I felt like I had to tell the story all of a sudden because I kept reworking scenes in my head, you know.
If we join, we can win. If we win, well, then we'll have what none of us have ever had before. A country of our own.
So many credits. I was looking through your stuff like Batman, things like that, Gladiator, and I'm a big fan. I get the poster actually back there, Braveheart. Yeah. You seem like I know you said you studied a lot of different martial arts, but I noticed the two movies. Well, I shouldn't say I think it's Outcast that you directed has a lot of swords. So did you develop the sword? Were you more natural as I guess a sword master, or what got you into the swords?
Well, when I was at drama school, we did, in England, you do a lot of sword work, sword and shield, rapier and dagger, everything else, because you do a lot of theater. So I did that and I really enjoyed it. And when I graduated, I started to do some theater fight directing courses to get better at it. And then when I got into martial arts, I studied Kendo. So I had the Japanese style. And then when I got into Wushu, I studied straight sword and broadsword, and my speciality, one of the demos I was doing for the British team was double sword, double broadsword.
Okay, yeah, I noticed that.
I had a lot of that sort of double broadsword style, and also I was competing as a fencer. I became London fencing champion as well with foil. So I was trying to get a lot of experience in different sword styles, so that when I started on Braveheart, I choreographed every fight on Braveheart, taught Mel, did everything on that side of things. And again, I utilized a lot of martial arts and then changed it so that they didn't look like they were doing the martial arts. So you'll see a lot of blows where they're protecting and swinging it around, which is a Chinese style. And then there'll be a little bit of a Japanese in the middle. And I'll combine them and make it. And I'll say, no, if you put your hand like that, all of a sudden it's Chinese. If you put your hand like this, it's okay. It takes away that sort of Asian feel. So I would kind of, with Mel's movements, to try to make him really fluid, I used a lot of the wushu style, but the sword was so, it was a 4-foot-something sword.
Okay.
So literally, it was such a large sword, and he had to do a lot of things with it where he's wielding it. And it was very difficult to do. So I had to make it really fluid because it was difficult to stop the sword in one way. So the martial arts helped a lot, and I could, because Mel was so busy, Mel Gibson, he was directing, producing, starring, and so a lot of the time I'd choreograph his fights. I only trained him for a few weeks before we started shooting.
Damn.
And then he got into it really heavy as a director. So he'd come up, he'd go, Nick, what's the next fight? Okay, fight 1, part 3, Mel Gibson, and so 4 guys would run over. Everybody knew, so I would just go, part 6, fight 4, section 2, and then 3 more guys would come over, and I'd show Mel the fight. He's coming from here, he would do this, and then this guy's coming from here, so you've blocked him, you're cutting him while he's about to strike, you've got to come back because his second move's coming, and then this third guy's coming from here, so I teach him the fight literally as we were getting ready to shoot, and I'd be putting the cameras ready to shoot. He would learn the fight 5 minutes before we shot it. All the guys around him knew everything. So he had so much on his mind. He would learn that fight within 5 minutes of it, because I kept every fight to about 4 or 5 moves, and then I would do the next section. So I would show him the first 4 moves and all the guys knew it perfectly, because I'd basically been doing the fight for Mel in all the rehearsals, so that everybody knew exactly where to be. So when I said fight 4, section 2, they would run over. I'd show the moves. Everybody's good, and then Mel would just learn it and go through it. And
so you would shoot it in sections, basically. So you would break it up into like, all right, 5 moves, shoot it. 5 moves, shoot it.
Yeah, pretty much on that in that movie. But the thing was that I knew that it was going to be so quickly cut. They were never going to hold the shot more than about 3 or 4 moves. So it was literally, this is the now they're cutting out of it to go to another character. then they'll come back to Mel and he's on his second section, then they'll come to another character, and then they'll come back to Mel. So there was one fight that we did, which was a long fight, never ended up in the movie. We did all the rehearsals, everything else, and that was a 70 or 80 move sword fight. Never ended up in the movie, but everything else was literally 4 or 5 moves. But you're in the middle of a battle, so you're on Mel, boom, 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 cut to someone else, boom, boom, and so you didn't have to sort of keep that continuity going all the way through because you knew there would be a cut there, a cut there. So we were basically, okay, Mel hasn't had time to learn this. We'll shoot those 4 moves, and then we know we can put a cut in to go somewhere and learn the next.
Did he shoot the dialogue like first and then do all the battles? Was that broken up like into separate? Like towards the first part of the movie, we're going to shoot all the dialogue, and then like towards the end of the movie, we're going to shoot all the fights.
Not necessarily. We did. I mean, because we were in Scotland and then Ireland, so we went to Scotland for I think 6 weeks or so. We had to shoot the attack on the village. We had to shoot some pieces there. Then we went to Ireland, and he would shoot some pieces. But once the battle started, because on some days we had 1,500 extras. For the only a few days where we had that many, where they all had to be fighting in a big melee. And I had 1 week to teach 1,500 people how to use a sword, basically. And then, we kept 500 of those guys back for the main sort of crowd sequences. And then once we started the battle stuff, we went through the battles nonstop because obviously it's a massive budgetary consideration to have that many people. And, you can't bring them in, send them back, bring them in, send them back. So once we started, it was basically 6 or 8 weeks or whatever it was. I can't remember how many weeks, 10 weeks of battles nonstop throughout. Of course, in shooting that, there was always going to be, Mel on his horse riding up and down the lines going, they can take they can't take our
freedom.
Exactly. So we were shooting all that stuff at the same time as the battles because we still needed masses of extras for those things as well.
Got you. So you would keep like a core group that were in the front main battles, the main actors, the main stunt guys that were doing the main battles. And then towards the back of the line would be the guys that were maybe extra. What would that be called? Like extra stunt guys?
Well, we had, you've got your lead characters, your stunt guys. Then I had the A-team, background A-team, where we're basically out of the 500 or so that I actually spent some real time with. I chose about 120 out of those guys where I went, that guy's better than most of these guys. That guy, and then they would learn a separate fight. Gotcha. And then the next 375 or so, they would only learn 1 or 2 small fights where they would always work together. Because after that, you've got your first 30, 40 stunt guys, your 100 guys around them, which had all learned sort of were better movers. And then after that, you had the secondary background guys. And then after that, you had guys who literally came in for 2 hours. And I just told them to, do this, and do this in the background, 3 moves, and pushed them right the way in the background. So we didn't, we didn't ever really see what they were doing. You just saw some movement way back there.
They get their stunt credit. Boom.
Well, no, they would literally, I don't think they even got a background credit.
Let me touch on this. So I was looking through.